Hello everyone, welcome to a new chess video. Welcome to the Missile Trap, a trap that'll make you win in just 8 moves and leave your opponent perplexed with no options left. This trap starts with e4 and occurs in the Scandinavian defense. d5, e4, d5, Scandinavian defense. The opponent playing the Scandinavian defense knows that the normal thing is to take here and then recapture with the queen, but we're gonna set the missile trap for them, which has nothing to do with taking here, but rather giving away this pawn, and also letting them attack our knight on the first move. What do you think? Does the trap look good or not? First of all, thanks for the support, guys, because I'm receiving a lot of comments and I love talking to you. I reply to everyone. And thanks for the likes. We're breaking likes records day after day. So thank you very much. Let's continue with this spectacular trap. They're attacking our knight. Where are we going to put it? Well, the ideal square to place it is exactly this square right here. Why? Because we're attacking this pawn, and now, for example, they can't kick out our knight since we'd win back the pawn and all the advantage would be ours. Therefore, what they have to do is develop a piece, like the knight could be, while they defend this pawn. This would surely be the best continuation for black. What are we going to do? We're going to make a move like d3 could be. Notice that now, here we are, letting them exchange a pawn, and also, since black has an extra pawn, they'll think, well, I'll exchange this pawn, and now, after this move, I'm left with an extra pawn, and also I have better development. Well, better development? Not really, but an extra pawn. Let's leave it at that, an extra pawn. The thing is that now here, most people fall for this mistake. Notice they try, this knight bothers them a lot. They try to make it go away. This is already a totally huge blunder. And here comes the missile trap, also known as, in the Tennyson Gambit, the Tennyson Gambit trap, since the Tennyson Gambit is what we played at the beginning, okay? We sacrifice this knight, which has to be captured no matter what, because if it weren't captured, we're attacking the queen, and as soon as the queen moves, we'd take the rook. Therefore, this knight has to be captured with the king no matter what. And here, we'd already be winning the queen. Chill. With this missile sacrifice, here comes the missile. Brutal. We give check with the bishop. Notice that we're attacking the queen, so you can't go down to defend it because the bishop is there. You have to take the bishop, and now we take the queen totally for free. Here it seems like we've already won, but it's not the first time I've seen on the internet that they tell us that here we've already won the game, and it could be that it still gets complicated for us. The opponent has many traps here to stop us, and I'm going to show you especially how to maintain this advantage, which is quite simple. Notice that here a trap could be for black to play this move right here, e5. Now, I've seen in an internet tutorial that they're telling us to take this pawn and get out of the pin. What's the pin? This one right here. Right now, black is threatening to check us with the bishop and take our rook. So we have to get out of this pin. And I've seen that a very typical move would be to take this pawn right here. Well, this would already be a totally huge mistake, because after the move knight c6, where's this queen gonna go? This queen is totally trapped. She can't come this way, she can't come that way, she's totally trapped. And after a move like, it could be, sorry, this pawn is here, right? A move like castling or like knight c3, notice that, for example, knight e8 is threatening the queen, and this queen would be totally lost. Therefore, this queen can't go anywhere. Can she take this pawn? No. Therefore, here, if instead of playing d5, they try to set another trap like knight c6, which seems like it doesn't threaten anything, can we take this pawn? No. Why? Because after e5, we would be in the same trap again. This queen can't go anywhere, since she would be captured, and after whatever move, knight e8 would come, and we would be in the same trap again. So what should we do then if our opponent plays both the move e5 and the knight to this square? Well, the move you have to make, no matter what they do, is you have two options. One, you're cowards and you come with the queen to the original square at d1. This would be a good move, correct? Why? Because it's true that we would be a bit passive and we don't have any pieces developed, but the advantage of having an extra queen is so great that it would compensate for it. After whatever move, we castle and we'd be perfectly fine. And the move that I like is to place the queen at d3, giving a check, and now being a little more active in the position. For example, if they come this way, then simply now we could castle, and we're left with a totally winning position, and our queen is no longer in danger. Notice that this trap occurs in the Scandinavian defense e4 d5. This trap is totally powerful, but of course they have to play the Scandinavian defense against you, and most players here play e5 or even c5, but d5, although they play it against you a lot, and I'm sure they've played it against you 1,000 times, it's not the main defense. I'm going to show you a way so that they play it against you much more easily. We'll start with knight f3, and notice that the knight on f3 is protecting the e5 square. Therefore, they won't be able to play e5, but instead they're going to play d5. And once they play d5, expecting us to play d4, we're going to play e4, and we'd already be in the same position as the Tennyson gambit. Simply, we've inverted the order of the knight and the pawn. Why? Because starting with e4, it's rare that they play d5 against you, although they usually play it, but playing knight f3, it's very likely that they'll play d5. Therefore, we would find the same position, but through a different and much easier way. So look, if what we have to do is start with knight f3, the most common move is, as we've seen, d5, but it's not the only one. It can also be that they play, for example, knight f6, and we're going to see how to play here to get back to the gambit. Like I said, the most popular move here is playing d5, right? Therefore, it's going to be the one they'll play against you in most cases. And then you know what to do, e4. If they play knight f6, you're going to do d3. Why to 3? Because now you're targeting this square here with e4, and your opponent won't let you play d4 with the move d5, because we'd be losing a pawn. But here we're going to do it anyway, and after the exchanges, notice that here we'd be giving away this pawn. But when they take this pawn here, we already know that we don't have to recapture, but rather come with the knight over here and we'd be in the same position. The opponent exchanges these pawns, we come with the bishop over here, and we're back in the same trap, threatening that massive missile. If they play h6 again, which is actually the most played move around here, you know we can sacrifice the knight, and again, when they take, big missile right here. They can't go back, so we'd be in the same trap as before. Now, I'm going to give you a bonus tip that's really funny, and if you play online, you can apply it in quite a few games. Imagine we play knight f3 as the first move, knight f6, d3, and here the opponent, instead of playing d5, plays a move which is g6. There are many players who play like this because they've learned this setup by heart, and it's bringing the bishop out to g7 and then castling. And this is a very powerful setup, that many players use it who have learned it by heart. Therefore, after d3, they play g6. Like I said, this is a little trap for when you play online, because since they do this without thinking, they make pre-moves. It's like I said, right? It's a bonus, it's an extra thing, right? It's a very silly trap. We're going to play e4, and after bishop g6, watch out because they're putting in pre-moves there they already have the castling pre-move set here. So when you play e5, I've looked in the database, and it's unbelievable that we're threatening the knight so easily. And you wouldn't believe that 70% of people here play castle directly without thinking about what we do. Then we take the knight, and we're left with a totally huge advantage. And here, if they don't have the pre-move and move the knight, we can continue with a totally normal game. But I encourage you that if you're playing online and they play this setup here, try this move, because in fact, I've tried it, and right, it works. I played 2 games, and in one of them they castled on me, and I took this knight. It's a totally stupid trap, but it works. So we've seen what happens if starting with e4 they don't play this against us. That's why we're starting with knight f3. Let's say they play knight f6. We'll play d3, to prepare for d5 and e4. After the exchanges, here we said we'd come with the knight over here, threatening here, and if they took here, we've seen what happened, that we go straight into the trap. But many players with the black pieces, instead of taking here, first bring the bishop here to attack our queen. Let's see what to do in this case. We could get into complications here, but we want to keep the trap active, so we'll play queen to d2. Simply, you attack my queen, I put it on a safe square, and I keep the trap going by offering this pawn trade that I'll take with this bishop right here. Now here, of course, as always, what is the most used move by black in this position? The knight bothers them and they kick it out. Huge mistake. But what happens here? The thing is, even if they don't play h6, if they play, for example, g6 to bring the bishop out here, well, the trap would be the same. We take with the knight here. Even if the pawn is on g6, we don't care. They have to take no matter what, because otherwise they'd lose the queen or the rook. And here we bring the missile back again. Even if the position is slightly different, the trick or the trap is the same. They can't go back to defend the queen, they have to take this bishop, and we take the queen. Notice that no matter how much some details change, the trap remains the same. Why do I show you all these options, and not like most channels that only show you one option? Because in a game of chess, there are so many options that the more we know, the easier it is for them to fall into the trap. That's why I try to give you many of the opponent's options. That way, whatever they do to you, you spring the trap on them. Look at this variation because it's spectacular. Knight to f3, knight to f6, d3, d5, e4. And look here at a spectacular variation on black's part. It could be that they capture us here. You already know what we have to do when they capture. Place the knight here, and now they come at us with the bishop on f5. This is a very, very curious position, and we have to think here about what we need to do. The move we're going to make in this case will be knight to c3, and I'll explain why. Notice that now, what are they threatening us with? Well, they're threatening to capture this pawn, and if we recapture with the bishop, they can simply trade it. And here, no trap exists anymore, and we're left down a pawn. And besides, when they attack this knight, we'll have to move it because we don't have any attack. What happens is that if they take this pawn here, what we're going to do isn't capture on d3 like they expect and goodbye trap, but we have a quite interesting hidden move, which is queen to f3. Queen to f3 has a double threat, the bishop on f5 and this pawn on b7. Therefore, there's only one move that defends both things at once, which is going back with the bishop to its original square. A bishop that had to disappear from this square here, and now we can capture this pawn, and we're left with a totally crushing development advantage. We're down a pawn, it's true. Black has played very well, but we have a totally impressive attack. We're going to castle on the next move. We also have all our pieces in a good position, and the one we have left can come out directly, while black has 3 moves left to castle. 1, develop the bishop, and 3. Therefore, they have all their pieces back here. We have a quite interesting advantage. Okay, chess teacher, it's great that you're telling me I have a winning advantage here, but if you don't explain how to win, I won't be able to do it. Well, obviously, I'm gonna explain how to do it. For example, they play e6, a totally normal developing move, as I said, to bring out the bishop and castle. We continue, for example, with bishop e3. Black can continue, for example, with bishop e7, quietly passive. We castle long. Why long? Because this rook, look where it ends up. X-raying this square, for example, the queen, we're threatening check and taking the queen on the next move, a discovered attack. Therefore, they have to cover, for example, knight bd7. And here, we're going to make a move that's very important for you to remember if we reach this position. Queen h3. It's a very interesting move, and I'll explain why. Notice that if they kick this knight to avoid problems, we're not going to sacrifice it here. Instead, the trap comes from another side. We're going to sacrifice the knight over here. Look, we're already completely winning, huh? They can't... Oh, sorry, they're forced to take this knight. Why? Because look, this queen is trapped among its own pieces, therefore it has nowhere to go. And when they take the knight, we'll come in with the bishop here, given check. The king's only option is to go here. We'll come in with the queen through here, and this checkmate on the next move is completely unavoidable. Notice that the only move that could defend this position might be knight over here. Besides the fact that they're giving it to us, they're also giving us the queen. They could also come with the queen over here to protect, but we just take it and that's it. Therefore, we're already completely winning here. Either checkmate or they give us the queen. So it's a completely winning position. I'm showing it to you in case some of you don't know how to continue the position. So I deserve a big like, right? Well, let's finally look at a way black can defend against this gambit. You know, you can play e4 first, knight f3, however you like. I recommend knight f3 first. When they take, we come here, and we've seen what happened when they defended with knight f6. All the recipes we had against knight f6. The thing is, they can also defend with the bishop, although it's unusual. We also have to learn this move and how to counter it. The option in the video will be d3, a super aggressive and super interesting option. If you want me to explain the move knight c3, which is a more solid move, but it would make for a much longer video, a much more complete video on the Tennyson Gambit, you can let me know in the comments and we'll do it, no problem at all. The thing is, in this video, I'm going to show you the aggressive move, which is the one we like best, which is d3, setting up spectacular tricks. Here, when we play d3, what is the opponent going to play? Well, the most normal thing, obviously, is for them to take this pawn. Pawn takes d3. Now, when they take this pawn, what are we going to play? Well, we're not going to recapture this pawn, but instead, we'll play the typical move that, if you've been paying attention to this video, we've played before. Queen f3. Now, much better than before, although it's a very similar position, but without the knight on f6, this queen f3 is even stronger. We're threatening this pawn with 3 pieces, or threatening the bishop, or threatening this point on b7, so we're putting on brutal pressure. Notice here that black can make several moves. If they decide to defend this bishop with the move e6, what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is the following. We'll take the pawn with the bishop. And boy, it's happened to me so many times that they take the bishop without realizing that queen takes f7 is checkmate. The number of times this has happened to me is absolutely spectacular. However, the best move after queen f3 for black isn't e6, but rather the best move is to take this pawn right here. Notice that now we're getting a little bit scared. They're attacking this knight, it's true, defended by the rook, but we lose a piece because remember that this is a pawn. And besides, notice that they're threatening something else. If we were to take this bishop here, for example, they would be giving us checkmate. Therefore, this pawn here is starting to look dangerous. Don't be scared. We don't have any problem if we play knight c3. We develop our knight. His pawn isn't doing anything anymore. We have this square defended by the knight and the queen, so the queen can't enter anymore. And now we're the ones with the threats. We're threatening this bishop, which has to defend itself. What we're going to do here is a brutal sacrifice, typical of this gambit. Notice that we're down 3 pawns. We give away the knight here, which they have to accept no matter what, because we're making a spectacular fork. And now, taking advantage of the queen's pin on the bishop, we'll play g4, putting brutal pressure on the bishop. Notice that we've already won this bishop for sure, and there's no way to save it. Black can try to play a move, for example, like bishop b4, putting more pressure on our position, trying to get some life, eliminating this knight here, which is the main defender against the queen's entry. But this doesn't pose any problem for us. Let's see what happens after the exchanges. We'll simply take this bishop here without worrying much about this exchange here, for example, which we'll recapture with the pawn. Yes, it's true, we're damaging the structure, but it doesn't worry us too much, because now what we're going to do after black recaptures this pawn won't be taking with the queen, but bringing more pieces into the attack. Bishop c4? Let's give power to our bishop pair, which we have super solid. Besides, this king can't castle, he must retreat. Now what? We can castle. We're missing this pawn, but it doesn't seem serious. We castle, bring the rooks into the attack. They have to defend here. As for us, what will we do? Well, OBV, for example, they could play this move first, right? There are several moves, right? We can play rook 1 check here. They have to defend over here now. We can also bring the other bishop into the attack, and look at the pressure we have in the game right now. We're pressing with the rook, we're with the bishop, with the rook. We're putting on a totally spectacular amount of pressure. We have all the pieces coordinated, and most importantly, the king is super unsafe in the center and can't castle. We have a totally unmatched pressure, and this cannot be stopped in any way. It's gonna be a victory for sure if we play carefully. I really hope you guys loved it. I hope both you and I can put it to the test in our very next games, just to see what results it gives us. I truly hope you loved the video. Leave your like and your comment, because I love talking with you guys. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.